Hi, everybody, and welcome to Habitat Now. My name is Aaron Shea from Habitat Galleries, and I'm honored to open up this year-long exciting exhibition slash competition called Not Grandma's Glass. And I know the title might be a little off-putting, but it's there in a snakes of a plane approach to bringing awareness to the show. Back in late last year when COVID was kicking in, I decided to reach out to 12 artists who are working on the edge of the material, pushing the medium beyond the norm, and invite them to a show. Entirely virtual, entirely online. Each of them gets a month, January through December. The terminology, not grandma's glass, comes from me being at shows in my career and talking to parents about the next generation, talking about their art collections. And they always said, that's just grandma's glass. And the focus of the show is to try to really push beyond that and get people to think about glass in a different way and bring attention to these artists that are really, really important in my eyes. And I'm hoping they become more important in yours. And I'm so grateful for you guys for joining me after New Year's and celebrating this exhibition. This video will be posted up on YouTube, so if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And first and foremost, I want to welcome Morgan, our artist, our first artist in Not Grandma's Glass, for joining us. Morgan, say hi to everybody.
Hi.
So Morgan will be giving a presentation about her and her work. Her presentation is now up on notgrandmasglass.com. The site is almost done. It still needs a little tweaking, but we got it up in 2 weeks before the holidays kicked in. So feel free to take a look there. And Morgan, if you'd like, go ahead and say hi and take over the screen and we'll start your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to start my presentation momentarily. Share my screen. Not the most technologically savvy, but I'll do my best.
Perfect. We can see
Everyone see?
We can see. Yep. Go ahead and click
Perfect.
play.
All right. So I am I believe that the first presentation for this exhibition, which I'm honored to be included in. I have been working in glass almost 20 years. I went to Massachusetts College of Art and Design and grew up in Boston. And after graduating Mass Art, I ended up moving to Seattle, where I worked in a lot of factories. And I didn't really know much. I went to art school, so I didn't have a lot of the technical skill set that you would really need to be in the factory. So I was predominantly in the cold shop right away. So I was working at the Glass Eye Studio, which is where I started, and then the recession happened. So because I was the last hire, I got laid off, which, for a moment I was like, maybe I should leave Seattle, but I ended up going to Pratt Fine Arts, which is a nonprofit organization in Seattle. And I met Chuck Lopez, Paula Stokes, and a couple other people. And I started doing what's called a work study program there. And through that, I basically worked for free and trade for time. And I spent a lot of my time in the cold shop and the hot shop, working with Chuck Lopez, doing freelance around town, being given odd jobs by Paula, who has basically had my back the entire time I've been in Seattle along with Chuck. And I had an opportunity to do the free guy internship at BMI, where I met Ben Moore and Dante and Paul Cunningham and Preston Singletary. So that's where I really started to kind of get out of the factory setting and start working with artists on their own work. So, and after working at BMI, I started going to Pilchuck. For a while, I really didn't, think that I was ready to go there. I didn't think my skill set was up to par. But, I was wrong. And I went and started with the Pole Turners, which was also a volunteer, program there. So it was mainly factory workers or people coming from Canada to be up at Pilchuck. So you were there, you would work, and, you would basically be compensated by hanging out with your friends and drinking beer, which we're all really good at. So, those were really how I got started. And this image is the first time I actually went to Pilchuck. That's my friend Ashley in the back. We went to Mass Art together. And the first time I met Dale and Jim, and, which I now currently work for. And it's been a big part of my life. The iconic hot shop at Pilchuck. So, for those of you who have not been there, it's, such an amazing place, and it can be overwhelming, but you're in this in the woods in the Pacific Northwest, which is so iconic. And it has kind of like a David Lynch vibe to it, but it's super beautiful. And I remember the first time I stepped onto campus, I knew that it was going to be a place that I would consider my second home. And basically all my friends, my closest friends I met through at Pilchuck or some way connected to this place. This is the iconic Buster Simpson treehouse. So, I've stayed in this little house a couple of times, having that, have when you get to go up there a lot, sometimes you get preferential treatment. So when they get to know you, you get to kind of take advantage of some of the structures on campus. And Buster Simpson is actually an artist I ended up working for after being up at Pilchuck. I helped assist him. And, by going to Pilchuck, I met Dale and Jimmy and also Bruce Mao. So a lot of my work, and also Martin Blank, who I ended up working for quite some time, and have helped sculpt my career in the glass world, and kind of how I navigate through my own path. So I've worked in in a lot of different facets up at Pilchuck as gaffer, as artist assistant. I've been a student, a teacher, a TA, staff, volunteer, pole turner, gaffer. I already said that, an artist in residence. So in this, the artists at work, not artists in residence. So I've had a lot of different jobs up at Pilchuck. So it has been a major part of my career. This was the first class I actually got to take with Nick Mount, Dante Marioni, and Dick Marquis. So it was like, I always tend to try to take classes that take me out of my wheelhouse of things I don't know, because I don't see the point of going to do things I already do know. So I like to, really kind of put myself in uncomfortable situations. I got to meet Charlie Perriott, who I now work for as well, but I was his assistant and the rest of the Hallberg's assistant during the engraving session, where I was taught by April, Sergeant Howe, and Pavlina Chambalova and Yaroshada how to cameo engrave glass. So every time I've been up there, it's been this major turning point with my practice. Martin Blank is a huge part of my life. I worked for him for many years. He's one of the most generous, kind individuals and just filled with so much love. And he gave me a lot of opportunity and really pushed me beyond my limits, into uncomfortable situations where he's like, you can handle it, you'll be fine, just kind of throwing you in the deep end. This is one of the last projects I worked on with him, which ended up going down to, it's at Ground Zero in New York. So where the World Trade Center was. This is some of his work that I helped him fabricate as one of his assistants. So I worked for him in the hot shop. I was one of his backup cold worker, along with my friend John. And then I was also the hot shop studio manager as well, until we closed a few years back due to Amazon buying out the land that we were on. So he now rents from other institutions. This is just the old studio that we worked at and our team. Some action shots. And there's Jimmy. Paula, again, saved the day. So, whenever I really needed work, Paula would hook me up with a job. And basically, Jim and I are like twins. You can't really tell the difference between us. That was one of our matching outfits. Then at Pilchuck, getting to work on the team. At that time, I was part of the staff up at Pilchuck, and because I had worked for Jim and knew the people on the team, they asked me to fill in while they were doing a demonstration for the session up at Pilchuck. So this is a little bit, I was working for Jim freelance at this time, but I wasn't an official team member. I've had a lot of different jobs. I've traveled to help other people. So this is actually working at Wheaton Village. I had originally gone there to assist Jenny Crisciullo for her artist residency. And when I went there, I got to meet Hank Murda Adams, who at the time ran the program. And we got along really well. So he continued to hire me to come out and work on other artists' work. So a lot of times I've made my living helping other artists bring their ideas to fruition. So a lot of times it'd be either helping in the hot shop or, on the end of things, cold working, removing materials or embellishing them. So I've had a lot of different experience working in different parts of the process of glassmaking. I also work as an art handler. So with Charlie Perry, we became really good friends. We're very close. He ended up hiring me to work on this for this company called ArtSite, which we install and maintain large collections of sculpture at basically anywhere. But there are a lot in Seattle, specifically Medina, where, Jeff Bezos has a home, all these people that have the type of income that can support that type of purchasing habit. So we actually had this job where we had to move this really crazy DeSantiana piece, and it couldn't go up the stairs from the house down to their new house because it couldn't be taken apart because it was mirrored in silicone because it would damage the piece. But our Charlie had, he's a problem solver. So he's like, well, why don't we just rent a barge and float it down to their other house? So that was a really interesting thing to do. I learned a lot, and he's a really brilliant man, and I've learned a lot from him. And he's like has a can do, get things done attitude, which I really appreciate, and is given me a lot of confidence with my own work on how to problem solve. And the option is to make things work. So that is the option. This is us installing this really beautiful Botero sculpture down on 2nd and Spring in Seattle. It's part of a set. So this is Adam, and Eve is actually at the owner's estate. So, but it's a really beautiful piece, and it's, if you're ever in the Seattle area and want to see it, it's a big bronze Botero. So it's beautiful. This is the image of it from the street. So now getting into where I work now, and I work for, my main job is working for the artist Dale Chihuly, and I'm very fortunate to work in a lot of the different facets within the company, and I've been able to meet and be guided by some pretty wonderful people. So there's Flora, Martin, Joey, well, Dale in the center, Joey and myself, all with our very bright colors on. But see, and this is more Martin Blank. So this is at the Museum of Glass. I have had the opportunity to have residencies at the Museum of Glass, and this is the first one that I had. Hopefully there'll be more. So after working for people like Dale and Martin and seeing how they orchestrate large teams and how to utilize the shop and the people that are working for them and their certain skill sets, and how to make objects better rather than making yourself when you have a large team to help you, so you get to utilize the skill sets of all those amazing artists. All the people I work with are all my closest friends. We live together, we work together, we hang out together, not particularly right now, but I feel very fortunate that I've had these opportunities to be around these amazing people, and them to have, trust and faith in me, and, take time out of their busy, hectic schedules to help bring my dreams to fruition. So I think when I had this residency, at any point, there are 16 people working with me to bring my ideas to life. So it's like, you try to get the best people to work with you so you can hopefully make the best work, because it's not all done on my own. Like I get a lot of help, and I try to return the favor. We all kind of barter with each other, as we all have different skill sets. So these are the two people, minus my friend Benji, who I work with predominantly. It's my best friend Deb, and my partner Courtney Branham. And this is the studio that I used to manage, Martin Blank's studio. So part of the deal with working with Martin, he had a lot of faith in me, and he really believed in what I was trying to do. So as he gave me the shop to use, which is really rare, but to have someone, that cares about you and your future that much, and to invest that much in you, like, I don't think I'd be where I'm at right now without the help that I received from, the people in my life. That it's such a wonderful community. People are so giving of their time, their knowledge, and their assets to help others. So it's a very unique experience that I've had in Seattle. Which I don't know if it's unique to me, but I think a lot of people have experienced that in Seattle and in general in the glass community. I had the opportunity to demo in Murano, which was so terrifying. So I was part of the gas conference, and of course they had my demo on the last day, so I was just anxious the entire time going into it. But I mean, I really shouldn't have been because of the killer team that I had: Courtney, Alex Cannon, and Chiara. And Chiara is Italian, so it was really nice to have someone there that actually spoke the language and really, made the demonstration quite easy. And I demonstrated how to make a rusted out razor blade, so which is something I don't think most have seen before. It was a really amazing experience. I'm really glad I got to do it, but I just remember shaking the whole entire time and just feeling like you just got to get through this. But it was, I had my team there, and it was it was a blast. So this is one of the working shots in this amazing factory, Fornaci Mian, I believe is what it is called. This is one of my studio shots. So this is just kind of like my desk area where I sketch things out. So these are just little things that I work on. So I work on a smaller scale before I bump it up to a bigger scale, just to kind of, get my ideas going before I invest too much more time or money into something if I don't necessarily like what the outcome is going to be. It's just a detail shot. I'm very influenced by pop culture, things from my childhood that I found interesting. So it was, David Lynch movies or Notorious B.I.G. rap, anything, anything that was on MTV, and really. But I also do a lot of sketches, so I do a lot of drawing, and before doing a cameo engraving, because once you make a mistake on that, you can't really fix it. So a lot of times I'll do master copies of famous works, or I will take drawing classes with models, usually TA the class so I can take the class and be able to practice and hone my skill sets. It's another working image, and that was also from the Museum of Glass during my residency. Do a lot of cold working, so all process shots. And this is, this is actually the Ziggy Stardust Faberge egg, which is in this show. So this is the prep work, taking off. So you can kind of gauge the scale of the size of the egg. So a lot of them are close to 3 feet tall when they're in their stands, and the faces, the portraits are life scale, like life size. There's more studio shots in the hot cold shot before I start carving or engraving. So you have the rusty razor blades and pills before they're engraved with whatever marking they're going to get. These are some of my inspiration shots. So I really like darker imagery or things that are veiled, like something that is a little bit more complex to draw. I really like looking at images of fog or smoke, the veiled Virgin Marys. I have a piece in the show, it's a master copy of our Bernini veiled Virgin. So again, more inspiration images of what I look at when I'm engraving, so I can get a better sense, depth of lightness and darkness and all the tonal values in between. This is one of the images that I used for the cover shot of the Laura Palmer Twin Peaks twin portrait Faberge Eggs. So it's her, if anyone who is not familiar, it's the David Lynch show where it focuses on the prom queen that is murdered, and it has a dual portrait on the egg. So there's her prom shot and her wrapped in plastic. So this is imagery that I took, and photos that I took in New Orleans when I was there. So I really like cemetery, like the statues. I love looking at statues that are, affected by acid rain or are damaged, because I really like to engrave that type of portraiture, or that type of imagery. I find it to be very interesting and to kind of morbid in a way, but it's when you're doing those type of exercises, it's very helpful when you're trying to see light and dark, or shadows, or like convex contour shapes. This is one of my favorite images. It's the Hazarat angel, and it kind of exhibits all those qualities as well. And now into the work, using that imagery within the work. So when I started really kind of trying to find my voice within the material, I had taken this class from Janusz Pozniak, where we pretty much focused on technical skills as a glassmaker. So, proper hand holding, like how you work and your posture and all that. But basically, we focused on working on cylinders because it is a complex shape to make, as simple as it looks, to make them straight and very, as perfect as they can be. It takes a lot of skill and practice. And, Yanusha was an exceptional teacher for that, but I was trying to figure out how to use this and make it mine. So I was going through different types of patterns that I like, as I like a lot of fashion. So I was trying to figure out how I wanted to put my mark on the material. So this is, one of the first ones I did, which was a statue where I don't know if you can see it as well, but it was found after World War II, where a statue had been the church had been bombed, so the eyes were missing. So I kind of engraved that imagery onto the vessel. And this is another one where the hands and head had been chopped off this Mary statue. Now into the patterns. And I like continuous patterns that are uninterrupted. I don't want to see a break. Then combining those types of imagery together. And this is a flat panel. And then I started working with different pill series, talking about addiction and just kind of counterculture. This is one of the first pieces I made. I want to say this is, maybe 13 years old, but it's called Take Two and Don't Call Me in the Morning. It's a martini shaker set. And these are working with the pill images and working with pattern and trying to apply all those techniques in creating forms that I was, happy with. And this was just kind of the beginning of this process. There's some detail shots, different colors. And this was a piece that my friend Alex Can and we collaborate a lot. So this is something that we did together. And this piece actually won us a class at Pilchuck because it was donated to the Pilchuck auction. And we received we were the first recipients of like the scholarship program that they had at the auction, which was the People's Choice Award. So it was very exciting. And we got to take a class together, and we ended up taking the Jenny Ellick and Nettie Blair class, which was amazing. It's another collaborative piece Alex and I did together. A few more. So it really combines the two things that we both like to do. We both like to build glass. I like to carve and engrave, and Alex does all the really beautiful Marini Merletto work. This was another collaboration with my friend Jazz Moms, who is a prolific guerrilla graffiti artist around the Pacific Northwest. So this was a really fun piece to work on with her. Now it goes into the Faberge Eggs series, which really started as, working with the imagery and how do I move away from these standard objects that I don't really have much connection to, but I love, reading about history. I have an affinity for true crime and, all the kind of morbid things that no one really likes to talk about, but a lot of people really enjoy learning about. Not necessarily that I'm, into serial killers, but not like that creepy. But I do like, learning about all these things. And this is based off a tragic demise. And, if you're not familiar with the Faberge, it was given, in the Romanov family, who were the last Tsars, they was given as Easter gifts to, Nicholas gave it to his wife. And then, we all, if you do know or don't know what happened to them, they all, were murdered by the whole family. So it's like kind of referencing tragic demise of pop culture icons in this sense.
Morgan, some information popped up on the right there on your computer screen. Looks like a male.
Oh,
There you go.
there you go. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I didn't even see it. No, here, I jumped. There's a Ziggy Stardust, modern day Faberge, and it's, blown glass with gold leaf. And these all stand between, 32 and 39 inches tall, depending on which one. So this is more of that stark image of, there's not a lot of depth to it, but it's like these kind of black and white images, even though it's white and pink. But I was looking at these and I was like, I really want to have more of a like, painterly vibe to it as opposed to this vector-like image. So this is starting to get there with the Prince one. That was the third one I did. And then I moved into my Seattle icon. So this is the Kurt Cobain. And I took that information from working with Charlie and these other engravers at Pilchuck and started working on this cameo process. So you have to be really careful, obviously, because you're subtracting material in order to create an image, but you can't add material. So a mistake can you can lose a nose. So you have to be a little bit more aware of what you're doing. And a lot of times when I'm doing these pieces, all the patterns, everything, there's a reason for it. There's a reference to it. So on this one, it's the buffalo plaid pattern, which is so like very grunge. And then the stripes on the base of the piece is reference to the MTV Music Video Awards, the shirt that he wore. So it's like everything is very connected. And I don't tend to like just put something there because it fits. There's a reason why I did it. There is a close-up detail shot.
Are these permanently placed in the bases or are they removable?
They're removable.
Okay.
So yeah, they come in two pieces. So there's, the egg sits separate and then the stand is obviously, but it's like this, I think these are around 34 inches, I want to say, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. But, here's the smoke and the reference to that. So always looking at imagery and trying to practice creating it to make it look like smoke. And I hope it comes across as that way, but when you look at something so much, you choose what you want to see.
With these kind of works, when you're carving away, go back to Jimi Hendrix for a second. Is the egg entirely black or entirely?
So the egg in the interior of a cameo, the interior, it's like contrasting color. So this specific one is a steel blue. Mm-hmm. And then on the exterior is an opaline white. So opaline is a transparent white that when you remove layers of it, it creates tonal values. So when you're drawing or anything like that, and how you, instead of just black and white, you create shading. Mm-hmm. So that's what this process entails. But it is a very thin layer of white. So ideally you'd work in a situation that you would have a color tank of opaline, but that's not really always the option that we have, because most people, if they have a furnace, they have one and it's clear. But you can see from the depth on the, like in the striations around the portrait, how deep that the white is. So, and so it's, not very forgiving material.
You must be able to carve pumpkins in an impressive way too.
I can, yeah. I'm pretty good at it.
Good to hear.
I'm compulsive though, so I'm a very compulsive person. So it's like, we'll overdo it. And then here's the Laura Palmer piece. So this is one piece, and there's not a front or a back, it's just multiple views. So like I said, everything has, it's not just placed there for no reason. The background is the Pacific Northwest tree line. The base is based off like the dream place where it's like the red curtain, and the floor pattern is the stem. And actually underneath is hidden is another reference to the show, which is the log lady. So it's a bunch of tree rings carved into the base, but you can only see if you take the egg out of the holder. So everything has a meaning. Now this piece is called The American Dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. It's actually part of a permanent collection at the Habatat Glass Museum. I was part of the Young Glass exhibit, which occurs once a decade. And, this was probably one of the first substantial pieces that I made. And, it was based off, I watched a lot of George Carlin growing up, and there's a whole bit how he's talking about the American dream and how, you have to be asleep to believe in it, because there's a, if you have seen it or have not seen it, I would suggest rewatching it because it's very informative, and it, especially with what's going on in the world right now, it's more prevalent than ever. And then the next slide. What? Is it not moving?
I'm stuck on this one.
Whoop. Here is a detail shot. So all these pills are carved and sandblasted. You have the pot de verre lines of drugs, and then the blown razor blade, blown and sculpted razor blade with the silver and glass powders.
What size is this piece, would you say, in scale?
So that piece is 2 feet tall, and I want to say 30 inches wide, because the pills are about 4 inches in diameter, 4 to 5 inches in diameter.
Gotcha.
These are the smaller ones. This is called white privilege. So this is, talking about how there's a lot of systemic racism out there. And, as someone who has dabbled in a lot of things, and been busted and didn't get in trouble, a lot of times when people have consumption issues or addictions, white people tend to go to rehab while people of color tend to go to jail. So this is my comment on it as, someone who has had experience with this. This is a piece, the counter piece called, it's another one of the designer drugs, is Black is the New Black. So it's talking about how not much has changed. Even though we are growing as a society, we still have those same problems. This piece is, it's all within the same series, is Who Doesn't Love a Bad Idea? It's like, I've been full of them my whole life. And not all my friends, a lot of my friends have too. So this is kind of, looking back at what was going on when we were in college. This piece is a portrait of Coco Chanel. So, and it's called I Don't Care What You Think About Me. I Don't Think About You at All. She's a very, controversial subject and a person, but she was a brilliant, amazing designer who changed fashion for women as a whole, but she also had her dark sides to her as well. So it's, people are very complex. Not everything's so black and white. There's a lot of gray area there. And this is the Bernini Master Copy, but I titled, Y'all Need to Try Jesus, Not Me, which was, during this time period of COVID, I have been online a lot looking at Instagram. We get the flooding of information, and being in Seattle, with what was happening here in Capitol Hill and being part of the protests myself, you saw a lot of different things, and this was a response to that. Now this is
that last piece is about 12 inches tall, just to give an idea of scale.
Yes. And it's a wall piece. Yep. So it's 12 inches in height, about 1.5 inches in depth, and about 9 inches wide.
Thank you.
This is part of my Ashley series. So this is, this was all kind of created during COVID. So it was, in reference, just a lot of, being online all the time, looking at Instagram, looking at memes, how it's, there's all these, I'm sure everyone's familiar with them. It's like a lot of information with a photo. So with this, it talks about what this is talking about. It's, bringing these taboo subject matter and highlighting it and making it into art. Like a lot of times, like anyone, I was told by another artist, like, you can make a sunset beautiful as an artist, but the real job is, how do you make the hunchback beautiful? So it's, kind of referencing that. But the series of Ashleys, which they're all spelled differently, all the different Ashley spellings. And this is, the tagline that goes with this one is, I don't know what's in COVID. I'm not going to take the vaccine. I don't know what they put in it. At the same time, they're doing this. So it's, kind of ironic. And this is the other one opened up, because it's a Dior case and a Chanel case. So using, found objects and turning them into art, not having access to a lot of studios during that time. And as a glassblower or a sculptor in the medium, if you don't have access to a studio, it's really hard to make that type of work. And also working on large teams, you can't really, do that because of exposure. So it was trying to, think outside the box and, use my voice, but using other materials, becoming creative with the message I want to portray. And then also there's my, I had these cards made. They're my American Excess cards. So that was a
Great.
really fun project to work on. I really like to entertain myself at all costs.
You should leave those around. Those are fun.
I do. They're hilarious. And then this is actually, I want to show the orientation of that. This piece is actually, it's shot on it. This is the photo is flipped. This is actually a wall piece. And I'm going to show the correct orientation because this is actually hanging on a wall. But a lot of times when people look at it, they don't really understand that that's what they're looking at. It's like hard to understand that when you're not with them in person. So the next slide, it's correct orientation, how it's actually shot, which is on the wall. So this is also Ashley, and she, lives for, Starbucks, loves brunch with her besties, and, laughs with her friends at brunch, and, lives for, Target and Gucci, anything designer, and also cocaine. So it's, live, laugh, love. It's like they all can be very basic at times. And these are also, semi self-portraits, but portraits of people I know. And it's, this not the way I am now, but it was a part of my life at one point. This is Ashley as well. And he works on Wall Street where the stocks are high, and so is he. So it's, all different. These problems and these habits, however you want to look at it, occur in all walks of life. And this is a close-up of the detail of the card. So all that, the debris on the card is actually pâte de verre. So it's a process in glass where you fuse together glass powders. And so it creates that fake cocaine line. And then these PVC cards are made, I have them made, and that's gold instead of a actual chip in there, but they are all embossed and they're, credit card size. And now this is like the really big piece that I worked on. It took about 2.5 years. It's called Once Upon a Crime, the American Epidemic. So it's a very loaded piece. And for reference and scale, like this is the largest piece I made. It's 80 by 80 by 30. So that's me in the shot, moving materials around. When I was getting it photographed, Russell was like, you really should be in one of the shots so people have an idea of the scale of this. Because I really do like to play with scale, and, it could be life size or it could be any size, really, But this is in reference to the sale of The Secret album by the Wu-Tang Clan, which sold for $2 million to Martin Scarelli, who is most notoriously known as Pharma Bro. He's Public Enemy #1, or at the time he was, and this was, I want to say, in 2016, where he got arrested for defrauding investors. And what he did, which was really terrible, was he raised the price of a life-saving drug for malaria. He raised it from $13 or something a pill up to over 750. And that's not what he got in trouble for. He got in trouble for defrauding people, like the investors, not about hurting people. And when he was arrested, he had bought this exclusive Wu-Tang album that was sold at, I want to say it was Paddle 8, the auction house in New York. And it was sold for $2 million. So when he was arrested, this album was seized by the government, by Jeff Sessions, who was the attorney general at the time. So the Wu-Tang's album is owned by the United States government, which I, find to be pretty funny. But in this, I had recreated the album as a chessboard, and within this chessboard, there's, the American Express credit card, the black card with Martin Scarelli's information on there, and his number on there is actually his inmate number. And there's like the big scale lighter and the big Oxycontin bottle. So it's talking about all these problems that we have, in, not just our country, but in the world. And then the spoon is in reference to being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Like you know, people have different political views. I'm not shy about mine. I mean, I can be pretty radical in a lot of ways, but I don't care for the, who I find to be a public disgrace, Donald Trump. But that is the heroin spoon, but it's the cameo silver spoon. So then we have this piece was really important to me because I was able to work with so many amazing artists on this piece, like KT Hancock helped build it, and she built and designed the collapsible stand underneath, and all these mirrors are magnetized and fit perfectly on this platform. And then, I worked with Becky Feather, who worked on the needle, and then I worked with different metal workers. There were so many people involved in this process, and actually all these components were made at the Museum of Glass during my residency. So it was this process of making the work in 2016 and then taking 2 years to engrave and complete it in 2018. So this took, quite some time. And, it was a lot of anxiety inducing, rage inducing project of what have you done? Every single day I'd work on it. But in the long run, I'm so glad that I, finished it, made it, and it happened, and all the wonderful people that I worked on with it. So here are some detail shots of the work and all the engravings. The thing that frustrated me the most about this piece, though, is the best engraving I ever did was that cameo spoon. So it was, bittersweet. Some more detail shots of around the piece.
Very impressive work. Thanks for sharing it, Morgan.
And that's my beautiful angel, Georgie. And my last slide is Clifford Rainey's.
Oh,
the next
yep.
exhibition.
I'll make a note of this next week. Next Saturday, we're visiting with Clifford Rainey. Many of you know him and his work, and we'll be doing a Habatat Zoom, catching up with him and his world. So, Morgan, will you stop sharing the screen right now?
Yes.
And I have a question from you from the audience asking you about your egg.
Sure.
How long does it take you to make one? And do you make the eggs alone, or do you have assistants?
Oh, so anytime I work, I always, I work with a team of people, but in the engraving process, I work alone. But I work on normally the smallest team I work with is 2 other people, but usually it's 3, and it's predominantly my best friend Deb and Courtney and our friend Benji. So yeah, when we're making the eggs, it takes, probably around, if we're in the right rhythm, we can probably make one in an hour and a half to 2 hours, but then the stand is separate. So it could be a whole entire day just making the components and making sure that they actually they're going to fit together correctly. It could take multiple days. It's like kind of hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the only time I really work alone is when I'm engraving.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. My cats are jumping up on my table now. I told you they'd come
Perfect.
around. Good. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself now and ask. I really enjoyed that presentation. Morgan, it gave me a glimpse into your work and your vision. And I would advise and ask everybody to check out her presentation. I love the explanation of Ashley and Ashley and Ashley and Ashley.
Yeah.
It was really
I think we're all Ashleys in a way. We all have a little Ashley in us. It's okay, it's part of our human fabric.
That's true. We all have our own desires and our own thoughts, which is always interesting explaining. Mm-hmm. Some more serious than others. I'm glad you explained the card too. I was very curious about that. That was very fun. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us, Morgan, and thank you everybody for joining me today. I'm excited to go through these every month with all of you. It should be a lot of fun exploring these new artists and their careers, and we're honored to have Morgan as our first premiere. So feel free to unmute yourself and say goodbye, and I'm going to keep putting my cats back down on the ground. And thank you, Morgan, again for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Morgan, that was so great to really see every skill set of yours. I mean, you just went through your blown glass, your pot de verre, which is so hard to do. I mean, your work is so layered. That was a really good way to see your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bravo, it's very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
And this is the kind of work we're promoting in the show. And want you to have an emotional response to seeing these kind of things.
And could you please post the URL for the exhibit again on the chat line or someplace?
Sure, I will do it right now. I have it saved up on my robot here. So yeah, feel free to check it out there. I would love for everybody to share the content as well, social media wise. The best way to get things out is we're all still at home in this world. It's posted up. Feel free to take a look. My cats are killing me here. Come here, kitty cat.
Thanks, Morgan. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you,
You're
guys.
welcome.
I'll be sending out a new.
Any questions?
Great presentation.
Yeah, Morgan, I got a question for you. You work, like of these series, I mean, it's apparent that they all are cohesive, but there's like, you've got the Faberge Eggs, and then you've got the Ashley series, and you've got the designer drugs, right? And I see some overlap in them, but I was just wondering, are they all continuous bodies? Like, are you continuing to move forward with all three of them, or is...
Yes. So I'm always working on multiple things like at once. So I kind of jump all over the place, kind of probably how my presentation went, where it's like, like, you know, all over the place. So it's, you know, yeah, I'm currently working on an old dirty bastard Faberge egg, but taking other components. Like I'm always trying to pull from other things to make things better, because I always want to be better at what I do. Like I'd never find that anything I do is always up to my standard. So it's like, okay, I need to make this better. How can I make it more? How do I increase the skill set? So yeah, I'm constantly working on each one of those series and then taking and adding and subtracting and moving things around, kind of like a big puzzle.
Gotcha. So were the early Faberge eggs, were they like stenciled and then sandblasted? Or...
Yes. Yeah. So I'd create a stencil and then
Okay.
sandblast them. And didn't have enough depth for me. So I was like, I was okay with it, but I was like, this needs to be better. This needs to be better. Like this isn't up to the quality that it should be. But,
I know.
I don't know, as an impactful image, I think that the graphic element of it, you know, that I felt that it was really strong.
okay, that's good. I like hearing that. You're always your own worst critic. So you're like, oh, this can be better. Like, why are you doing this?
Absolutely. Just one last question.
Of course.
MF Doom passed recently.
What was that?
Metal Face Doom, MF Doom.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So are
Back
we
October
gonna
though.
You got an egg?
I have an egg for him, so it needs to be engraved. Yeah, so it'll be a lot of. I think I'm gonna either gild it or like spray platinum on it for his mask. So I haven't decided which. I'm gonna take some new skills that I'm acquiring.
Well, thank you so much for sharing today. It's great to get deeper into the work. It's massive.
Oh, thank you very much for your support, and I look forward to your show as well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We'll see you next week. Have a great Saturday, and thank you again, Morgan. And we'll see you next week for Clifford Rainey. Bye, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Thanks, Morgan.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Morgan.
Nice to see you too.
Great
Bye,
show.
Tom. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.